You're listening to Leadership Powered by Common Sense with your host, Doug Thorpe. Here's Doug.
Hello again, everyone. I hope you're having a great day, off to a good start. This is Doug Thorpe, and you're listening to another episode of Leadership Powered by Common Sense. Today, I've got a gentleman who has done a lot of work in the staffing space, and I'm going to let him elaborate on all of that story, what he's been able to do with it. His name is Dave MacDonald, and his company is Better Together. I love the name. Dave, welcome to the show.
Doug, thanks so much for having me. I love the concept of management with common sense and how many people actually have common sense today. Like, really, it is so fleeting.
Well, I've occasionally told the story, but I'll it's been a while, so I'll share it again. When I first started this, that tagline, Leadership Powered by Common Sense, was just that. It was a tagline on my website. It was not the show title. But I was interviewing marketing agencies to help me grow my business and practice. And I interviewed this one, and they said, "Oh, we hate that tagline. That's so off-putting. You're never going to go anywhere with that." I said, "Guess what? You're done. Goodbye." And I was committed to it because my whole career I've been what I fancy a common sense kind of leader. I always try to distill the technical jargon and all the complication people try to bring to the table to, sadly, sometimes just to show how smart they think they are around others. And sometimes for making a valid business decision, you just don't need all that noise. You need to get to the basics and, how do I get from point A to point B? And that's it in a nutshell.
Well, and most frontline managers don't really understand all the jargon. They nod their head, they play along, but they don't really get it, and to one extent or another. And so when you can break it down for people so that it's understandable and digestible, it's just better management and leadership, both of those things. The people have to believe that you care about them,
right?
And so if they don't understand you, how could you care about them if they can't understand you?
Right. And on that note, I go back to the backstory I was given when we met, and tell the folks a little bit of that story, your inspiration for the creation of the company and how you got into that.
Sure. Thanks so much. Really, a Better Together group is all about feeding families one shift at a time. And that's a particular passion for us. We want to help people, just put bread on the table for their kids. And so the really important part about that is, why that was so important to me, was because I was struggling. I was struggling to get that done. My wife and I, at 24 years of age, had twin boys born into our household. And I lost my job 30 days after that.
Wow.
And so I did a lot of temping in the next 6 months to put bread on the table. And even when I was applying for full-time work, one of the spots that I applied for work was at a staffing company as a salesperson, and they didn't give me the job. And I don't begrudge them that at all. But it gave me a view into a business where I could help put bread on other people's tables by giving them opportunities that they couldn't source for themselves. And that was really inspiring to me. And within 10 years, we started our own staffing company.
Nice. Well, the staffing world, as I'm sure has changed pretty significantly over those years, both in terms of the ways that people communicate, but just in the ways people think about the placement and the way they want to, the way both sides of the table want to negotiate and think about the offer that's on the table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, what I would say is the thing that hasn't changed is that typically, I want to say this carefully, and I would accuse myself of this, and I'm really trying to learn, but most people in their 50s hate most people in their 20s. And I don't mean they're kids. I just mean generationally, the 50-year-olds are looking back at the 20-year-olds going, they don't get it. They haven't earned their stripes. They haven't done what needs to be done to succeed. And they don't seem as interested as we were at the time of doing that. But if you talk to the people that were when we were 20, that they were 50, they felt the same way about us. And I would say that likely when the Gen Zs that are today's 20-year-olds become 50, they're going to be disheartened by the people that are 30 years behind them. It's partly because at 50, you're recognizing over the hill is actually a thing. Like, and I don't mean like in a mindset, obviously you have to overcome those things, but there's stuff I can't physically do. My stamina isn't the same. And I'm jealous of those people that can. And and so when I see them perhaps not making the most of that opportunity, that hurts my soul a little bit because I wish I had the chance to go back into that body with what I got in my brain right now and kick some tail, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, you're right. I think that's an age-old generational challenge that is not anything new to the world today. Two thoughts on that real quick. A lot of my listeners have probably heard me say this before. I came across a piece of writing and I have used it in workshops. I'll read from it. I'll kind of quote the little block of text. And everybody kind of immediately goes, well, when I first started doing it, it was the millennials that were, big on the scene. And now we've even gone one more generation into the workplace. But originally they said, oh, that's the Millennial Manifesto. That's because it's spoken from the place of that young person looking up going, oh, that old guy doesn't get it. He doesn't know anything. And, da, 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 da. Well, the punchline to the story is this text was written by Henry David Thoreau in 1863.
Thank you.
And nothing new under the sun, nothing new at all about this thinking and the tension. So on that alone, I have become way much a contrarian with my colleagues in the HR space who really kind of struggle and fight this tension between all the generations in the workforce. And I kind of just say, stop,
Right.
We are all human beings. Let's get at a human level and let's meet one another and let's have a dialogue about what are you thinking? Where are you coming from? And certainly in a leadership capacity, you have to celebrate that and appreciate it, not condemn it.
Right. Well, and like the reality is that everyone in life that has achieved anything in life has got a hand up from somebody else. Doug, I don't know who the guy was for you. For me, it was a guy named Jerry Bain, a Boehm. And he was a client of mine, and then he became an employer of mine. And there was like 2 or 3 years where he was really impactful in my life. And he took me from being a boy into being a man. And there was we had some hard conversations, let me tell you, but he invested his life in me. And I know a lot more because of my experience with him. And I was that 20-year-old that, had the world by the tail and like lots of aggression and lots of ideas and had no idea what I didn't know. And at 50, I know what I don't know, and I'm looking for other people to fill it in. And one of the things that I don't know is anymore what it's like to be a 20-year-old. And so I'm bringing 20-year-olds around me to help me know what I don't know, and I'm helping them try to understand what they don't know.
Yeah.
I hope that wasn't too confusing.
No, not at all. And I love that idea. Some call it reverse mentoring. The idea of typically when we think about mentorship, it's always the older person being the sage source of wisdom that you share with the younger person. But there is wisdom in recruiting that younger person to be the voice to help explain to you how they're thinking about the world and reveal to you opportunity that you can change your leadership and your style and your understanding to be more effective with that group.
And I would say that that's the difference between mentoring someone younger than you in your 50s and in your 60s than in your 40s. In your 40s, you think you know everything and you're executing it all, and you want to be a one-way street of information down to, like, it's a tell. For me, I was more of a teller in my 40s. It was like, go do this, execute this. There wasn't a lot of back and forth. In my later 40s and early 50s, I was like looking for a real exchange of ideas. And I think that culture has gotten to a spot where we desperately need the exchange of thoughts from opposing views. And I don't remember, I was watching, I'm an old guy, so I watch a lot of reels. When I'm killing time at night, I'm sitting YouTube shorts or something. And I was, somebody was just talking about the need for hearing the other side. And like, we're a lot of people that talk really loud, but don't listen very well. And the better we listen to other people, it was Chris Kumo. And he was talking about a guest that he doesn't act like, he almost never agrees with him. But the way they disagree is so kind and respectful that they can hear from each other and perhaps get a tidbit of information that helps them improve. And that's so much a part of what life is about, is learning and improving based on the people around you and their perspective.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I totally, and I'm right there with you. I have long been on the record of saying the way I define what you just said is I think we need leaders in all sectors of our life and society. It's not just a corporate job title. It's there can be a volunteer work project in your community. And I go back to, I live in the Houston area, and in 2017, we suffered that horrific Hurricane Harvey. And, we had 52 inches of water in 48 hours, and there was nowhere for it to go. And many homes were devastated by the flooding, and you saw these work pods just spring up. People were just coming together, and the word at the time, the first step was muck out. Sheetrock was soggy and wet, and it was just goo, but it had to be taken out and stripped out to allow the rest of the structure to dry out. So there were these work teams that just showed up in neighborhoods. Sometimes it was a church group, sometimes it was Boy Scouts, or just people that were like-minded. They came together, and inevitably some leader would emerge, not to be dominant or egotistical, but he would just stand up and say, how about you three guys go do that, and you four go do this, and and they, all of a sudden, it was a beehive of activity, very productive, very successful, no confusion, totally informal.
No pride. Those people all came together in a humble way, trying to serve something. Somebody rose to the top based on their nature of their knowledge base or the nature of their personality, and they just got to work. Right? They're just there for a purpose, to get something done. And when we let ego get in the way, what does Patrick Lencioni say? Look for people that are hungry, humble, and smart. When he's talking smart, he's talking people smart. He's not talking like big IQs. He's talking people that know how to communicate and interact with people.
Yeah. So. And, the popular word for that now is emotional intelligence, the leader that has a high level of emotional intelligence, which the loose common sense translation is just a sense of awareness. I call it reading the room. Just be able to come in and get a pulse on what people seem to be thinking, how they're reacting in the moment, and deal with it appropriately.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, back to your staffing function. You refer to a 3I framework on hiring and identifying talent. Can you tell us some more about that, where it came from, and what's it all about?
For sure. So for us, the 3Is are integrity, intensity, and intentionality. And so, you're in Houston, I'm in Florida. People don't have down here don't have much of a use for furnaces, but the furnace makes a really great example of it. Um, if you think about a furnace, you need a heat source, typically fire, really, like in almost all furnaces, except for electric heat, probably. But like you're looking at a furnace box that holds the fire in place. If fire is the intensity, integrity is the fire box. So, like fire without a firebox burns the house down, burns the city down. Like talk to the people in Chicago, they know something about fires. Um, the so you need to have integrity wrapped around the box to contain it, but containing it's not enough. If you don't dispense the heat, it doesn't help you. And so the HVAC, channels that go through the walls in your house that you probably don't see, but they're either, grates in the roof or grates in the floor. That's where the heat's coming out. And so that's intentionality. So for our mindset, we talk about having lots of fire. You got to have a big fire. It's got to be roaring. We don't want a candle in that heat box. It's not going to go anywhere. You want to have a roaring fire, but you want to have it contained inside of integrity. So that's integrity of the heat box, fire, just like go get them, like people that have that level of intensity about them. And then lastly, you have to have intentionality that distributes the heat throughout the house. And what we find is, one, everyone claims to have integrity, but you never know if they do until you've spent a lot of time with them. Okay. So like you sit in an interview with somebody and say, hey, tell me about how, integrity plays out in your life. And they've got a story or two, but, you know, everyone defines integrity differently and they define it exactly to their own behavior.
Right.
So, nobody's sitting there going, oh, no, I'm actually a scumbag and I, rape, pillage, and steal. And they're not like, nobody's saying that. There's a phrase I've heard and often repeated: truth and time walk hand in hand. And as you get to understand someone, you know what level of integrity they have. And if they have integrity, they stay on the team. If they don't have integrity, they're gone. And like, the first warning, okay, maybe you can work through one or two, but like this is definitely a second strike or a third strike, and they're gone from the team. Just get them out the door. So that's on integrity. Intensity and intentionality often conflict. The people with the greatest intentionality have a lower threshold of intensity. People with the most intensity overrun the system and break things more often. So I've got a lot of intensity. I like to talk. I get animated. I'm excited. I'm throwing my hands around in this conversation. Like I have that innate in me, but I'm a mess as a human. And like, I won't show you my desk because it's disgusting. It's like I've got books and I've got 3 computers sitting in front of me. I'm running a bunch of different channels. I'm always, because my intensity takes me outside of the intentionality. So this past year, I made my daughter, who's in her mid-20s, the managing partner of our business, because I don't have the intentionality to keep all the trains running on time. And she's very intentional and she's very intense. And so that's a great combo. When you get somebody who has integrity and intensity and intentionality, the world can't stop. Like that, they just world can't stop those people.
I love it. I love it. And I love the way you wove that together with those 3 key words. And I'm reflecting back. I have certainly coached executives with work in each of those 3 areas, but I've never quite made the correlation you did. I love that, and I'm gonna borrow that.
So I have another 3-letter wordplay on it. If you like it better, it works great with your blue collar friends, or your Harley riding friends, or Probably not your banker group, Doug, not those guys. WTF. And I'm trying to personally redeem the WTF from where it's been taken to. But for
By the
me,
face.
so for me, work hard, tell the truth, and finish the job. And each one of those is actually a principle that I try to teach my kids as children. And by God's grace, they're all doing quite well in all of them. And I just, for our religious friends like me, I have a scripture verse for each one of those. So if you want to know the scripture verse for those, reach out to me and I'll break that down for you. But I don't ever put the WTF up in front of people unless I have the work hard, tell the truth, finish the job behind it. But so I go to trade shows with a WTF logo on my back, and people are always like, "Oh, what's that?" That's, people want a piece of that. So it's marketable.
Well, again, I agree with you, and I love that vernacular. And I'll one up your deal. I don't think it's so foreign to the banker community, at least not the bank that I grew up in with
Okay.
my early career, because we definitely did that, and we just didn't have it phrased that way. But in terms
Oh,
of
I didn't mean that they weren't hard workers. I just meant that the
no,
common vernacular WTF might not be as popular in
no,
certain
no,
boardrooms.
no, you're right. But what I'm saying is, the principles there definitely applied, and we were an amazingly successful banking organization,
Right.
but it was because of some very um, rigorous values and principles that were baked in, and it permeated our hiring and placement process. Again, looking for the right people that fit for that culture.
Right. And that's the most important thing this is a massive bugaboo for me right now, because there's so many more people available to be hired right now than there were 3 and 5 years ago, that people are currently trying to find people with the greatest skill set, and we hope they're going to fit our culture. They want somebody who's, descending the ladder of complexity to their organization and coming with knowledge of having run books 5 times as large to come down to your smaller enterprise and run your books. And I understand that from a mindset. You want to hire people that are smarter than you, hire people that are smarter than the last person. But if they're not a fit, they're not a fit. And you have to hire for fit. Everything can be trained. Everything that you know, everything I know, we learn. Okay, there's nothing
Right,
that we knew that we came out of the womb and knew this.
right,
And so everything can be learned, but fit can't be learned. And so if you want to protect culture, if you want to live your values, and if you don't want to live your values, don't write them. But if you want to live your values, you need to hire people that live the values too. Does that make
yeah,
sense?
yeah, totally. And kind of to your WTF acronym, as you were saying that, I'm thinking about a business owner in Florida, that it's a large commercial construction company, and his company value is one line: do the right thing.
Right.
And when I first met him, got to know him, and he's an amazing younger man, and it's generational. He bought the company from his dad, da da da.
Okay.
But they're like a 40, maybe now $50 million, size business. But when I first got to talking to him about all that, I said, all right, so I'll bite. I'll play devil's advocate. How do you really do that? What does that really mean in the day to day? And he said, oh, it's totally how we do everything. I said, give me an example. He said, well, in the construction trades, it's really common that if you goof on one part of the project and it's going to cost you some money to fix it, you plow that overage into some other line item somewhere in the project, so you make up your margin, and you keep your margin as you bid it. He said, we don't do that. We We own what we do. If it's a mistake, even if it's done by one of our subcontractors, we deal with that independently, but we own the goof. And if it costs extra money, we pay it. We don't plow it back, and we communicate it to our customers. We tell them, hey, red flag, boop, we dug the hole in the wrong place. We've already poured concrete. We're going to have to redo all that, but that's on us, just FYI. And he said over time, what that's allowed, it's accrued for him a reputation of honesty and integrity, so that he can bid high for the jobs and he still wins them.
Sure.
But he is delivering quality work at every step of the way, and customers learn that. These large platform developers like building these giant lean-to, storage and distribution type centers,
Sure.
the million square foot properties and those kind of things. They look for a constructor that knows how to do that and do it well. And because you want to build it one time, you don't want to have to keep coming back to it.
Right.
So, he said, so my guys know it. And he says, I hire the guys that are going to be honest and have that integrity. And, they're going to raise their hand and say, boss, I messed up, man. I wasn't paying attention and we put it in the wrong place. Now we're going to have to reposition it. And, it just permeates the culture they've got.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I think that that's a great thing to do. And I love that they show it and tell it to the clients. So we have a rule at Better Together Group is anytime we discount anything, and it's not that we don't discount things from time to time, we show the original price and we show the discounted price. I don't want to do work for somebody and feel like I'm giving them a favor and them not to realize that I'm giving them a favor, because that builds a level of just not disparity. I'm lacking for the right word, but it can build a real rub between you when you're doing somebody a nice thing and they don't know that you're doing a nice thing, and so they try to get you to do more. That can be a real problem. So like I had a lady I let go from Better Together Group recently. She was the culture. She just wasn't succeeding, and so unfortunately we had to let her go. And I went to understand what the employment law was as to what kind of severance I needed to pay her, and I paid her that plus an extra 2 weeks. And she came back and asked for me for another 6 months of pay. I was like, well, like I was already generous to you beyond what I have to do. 6 months is like, I don't feel like that's reasonable. And it can really create a burn between two people that really care for each other. Like when I let this lady go, I cried. It was really hard. And so often business owners and employees don't understand what each other are giving to each other. I don't always understand how much they're giving to me. And I need to do a better job at making sure I'm involved with them to understand that. So I think that that's and like always doing the right thing. Like, how can you go wrong? You just can't. If you do what's right, and you make things right. We also talk a lot about trying to, my commitment to my clients is, I'm not going to take money where I don't add value. And so if we haven't added any value to the process, then like, there's nothing to talk about. I'm not going to make money where I don't have value. That would seem to me to lack integrity.
Yeah, I agree. Totally makes sense. Well, Dave, I'll tell you what, I think we're about upon time. I really appreciate you sitting in and doing this. Tell folks the best way to get a hold of you.
Sure. Doug, the best way to get a hold of me is go to our website, x2z.org. You can find my daughter Hannah and I there, and some free giveaway books that we have on how to hire people, how to find a job, some other things that my daughter has written, just kind of helping people in the workforce.
Very nice. Well, as always, folks, we'll have that link in the show notes so you can hop down and check that out. And one last time, Dave, thanks so much.
Doug, thanks for having me. Really appreciate being here.
You bet. Well, folks, this is the time of the show. I like to remind you we do have a YouTube version of this over on YouTube, channel by the same name, Leadership Powered by Common Sense. We've got the full version episodes, and we have some shorts and reels that are published there as well that are cut from each one of our shows. So feel free to hop over there anytime if you want to check out prior messages that have been out there. And I want to remind you that I am offering to the world a program I call Vision 25. It's a 6-session personal private coaching opportunity. I will meet with you and I'll introduce you to something I call the perfect 100-day plan. We'll show you how that works and help you really launch into the new year with a great strategy and a great vision for where you may want to take your team or your business. So hop over to my website, dougthorpe.com/vision25. That's the numbers 25. And you'll learn more about that offering there. But for now, I'm going to sign off, say goodbye, go out there and make it a great day.
You've been listening to Leadership Powered by Common Sense, hosted by Doug Thorpe. If you would like to know more about the coaching and advisory services he provides, visit dougthorpe.com.